like to walk in the rain. Of course not, blowing and tornado kind of rain, but just a nice soft rain is so beautiful. And it goes back to sitting in the backyard with my mother, and she's in a lawn. We're both in lawn chairs, and it starts to softly rain, and she lifts her face and she says, "Feel that rain on your face. Isn't that beautiful?" Instead of, I've seen people, "Oh, let's go, jump
Right.
up and run in,
Yeah.
She's so relaxed, and she says, "Feel that rain on your face."
Uh-huh. How
She
old?
didn't drink in the afternoon or anything.
Uh-huh.
She hadn't been drinking. No, she loved that rain on her face.
How old was she? How old were you at that time?
I think I was probably a teenager,
Uh-huh.
probably, and the thing is, she was sick at that point,
Oh.
and she died at 53. But there she was. Maybe she was in remission too, but sitting there enjoying the rain on her face, and so
Yeah.
that was a traumatic time for me.
Yeah.
The loss of my mother,
Yeah.
because I was 18 when she died. I had just graduated from high school.
Mm.
I started college and I left. And she's telling me what a terrible mistake I'm making, because she would always say, "Get an education, Mary Lou, get an education."
Uh-huh.
And I just didn't. I just didn't want to be there. I didn't. It was easier to work because then I had some money. Because when you didn't have money, it was. So I should have certainly followed her advice. But anyway, it worked out.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Worked out well.
So at that time, so I'm interested in these stories of resilience and how the community comes together, or the family comes together to support one another. And this sounds like one of those times.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We had wonderful neighbors. A woman down the street, I remember, she knew my mother liked pears. She canned some pears and she sent pears, and I can just still see those cinnamon sticks. And I think of that every time I see cinnamon sticks in a little container at the spice place. And, but just other wonderful neighbors and family. They helped. My sister was a nurse at the time, and she lived in Pittsburgh, but she came with her two small kids, and helped there was no hospice. I think hospice came about right after that. So my sister came from Pittsburgh, and she was giving her some shots that sort of helped her through the pain and all that. But I think those hospice situations are wonderful for not only for the patient but for the family. They're so supportive of families. Hospice has to be one of the most wonderful things that ever happened. I think, because I not only saw my mother in that situation with no hospice, but my brother had been married for 30 years to a woman who was dying, and they were at the hospice at Mercy. And they were so good to him. They were kind to him. They would bring him a tray, and she wasn't eating, of course, but they would bring him a tray, and they helped him through that time. So I was always grateful to them. And of course, I don't know if they still have Mercy Hospice. Probably not, because the nuns aren't. I don't think the nuns are over there. It's regional hospital now, but I think any of the Allied Hospice up on Morgan Highway is supposed to be a wonderful place. And then there's that other one, Sacred Heart. Wherever they are, the concept is so helpful, to a person and their family. Such a wonderful thing they do.
So the pears with cinnamon sticks in them. Any other images of sort of kindness that you remember from that time?
Yeah, just, people just stopping by to say hello and maybe goodbye, So, and that was hard because, again, she didn't talk about her mother's death in the 1918 flu epidemic. She certainly wasn't going to talk about her own self dying, that would have been traumatic. So, but people would stop, and family, just a sad time.
Right. So any other sort of challenging times in the community that sort of maybe South Side faced during all this time?
Well, yeah, that in 1955 we moved from the log road down to Stephen Avenue, which is one block. It's on, if you go over the Cedar Avenue Bridge and you're coming up into Southside, you come up Orchard Street, and on the left there's one block there. Excuse me. Pardon me. There's one block, and it is Stephen Avenue. And we moved there, and that was in June of 1955. I was 10, and the, not Agnes, because that was 72, some flood, I can't remember the name, the flood of 55.
Right.
That hit. Roaring Brook came roaring down. It was it flooded the flats. It flooded New England. You know where the New England, Little England section of yeah, up there by Russell's, I think they called that Little England.
Yeah, right.
So that was all flooded, and the Southside Flats, the National Guard, I think, was brought in. They had helicopters rescuing people. Where the IGA was, now the IGA is gone now, but there were homes all down in there. There was a synagogue, I think, and homes, and that was quite because my father, having worked for the Department of Public Works, they spent a lot of time down there. So we had to immediately get the typhoid fever shots, and then there were pills you could use for your water, and because the water wasn't good.
Right.
So that was a community tragedy, really. Now, I don't think as much as Agnes was in 72, and that was more down in Wilkes-Barre, but this is the one here, and especially since it came from, up in East Scranton, where that, where Russell's.
Right.
That was quite the thing, but it all worked out. That worked out. They had redevelopment down there. They had a lot of money put in. They did a lot of changes. I can remember the day that they said, "Oh, the Cedar Avenue Bridge is ready to collapse," and there was somebody hanging on to it, so they had to rescue him, and of course we all kind of went as far as we could go to as kids to see what was going on. That was quite the thing.
Right. So let's go back to the flood. So there was down at the flats. There were houses all down there. Okay.
Excuse me. Yes, there were houses down there, and I know because a friend of mine lived down there, and her father had a car fixing place, like a place where he fixed up cars, and he was going to build a new place, and and all that wood was washed away, and she said he never was able to recoup that. I don't know if they didn't have insurance or what. Maybe he wouldn't have flood insurance. I don't know. I don't know. We didn't, but we were up higher because we were up that hill.
Right.
But that was 55, and that was quite the flood.
So the Cedar Avenue Bridge, that's different than the sort of the Spruce Street Bridge.
The Spruce Street was higher. That never collapsed that wasn't taken down until I think Mary Lynn was a baby. And so it would have been maybe 68, 69, 69 probably. That was taken down, and the Spruce Street complex was built. But the Cedar Avenue Bridge, so when that Roaring Brook came down, the bridge was high enough. So it didn't have, there was no worry there. So, but unfortunately, the Cedar Avenue Bridge, that was the wall of water. We've only seen it like that once. Maybe 5 years ago, we had a lot of rain, and they've also done some flood reconstructing there. So it's like spread out farther, and there's concrete, but still, the day we went down and saw that 5 years ago, I can't imagine what it looked like in 55. This water was choppy, and oh my God, it was all over the place. So
what about the person hanging down from the bridge? What happened? Was that totally different situation?
No, that was the same time. I think they were able to rescue him. Rescue that person. But and they rescued people from their homes with helicopters. I'm sure the library has some of this footage you know,
right,
because I've seen something either on TV or somewhere since then.
right,
But the two people I think were rescued from the helicopter or by the
right,
helicopter from their
right.
homes down
Yeah.
there. And I can't remember if people died somewhere. I'm sure they did, but I don't remember the
Yeah.
statistics of that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Okay, so uh, this question of kindness, I sort of hit on it when about your mother's passing, but
hmm
was there a time where you witnessed sort of another act of great kindness, either in your?
oh, absolutely.
Okay.
When we moved here,
Oh,
we're here 40 years,
okay.
and we moved here, and so 41 actually almost.
Mm.
We moved here, and the house was, I don't know, an older home. They were built probably 100 years. Well, I don't know about 100 years before then, but it's probably 110 or 120 now. You
Mhm.
know, with the original flooring and all of that. But this man next door
Mhm.
was, and he's gone now. He was an electrician.
Mhm.
So we move in, and we know it took all of our money that we had to get together for a down payment, and so we do that, and the house needed some work, but it was spotlessly clean, and
Mhm.
we thought it was lovely, and uh, we move in, and this man says, I started to do the electrical work with the former owners.
Uh-huh.
So he said, if you want me to continue, because it needed
Mhm.
it had some new wiring, but it
Uh-huh.
needed new wiring. Well, that was probably at the time maybe a $20,000,
Mhm.
So um, so he says, I just get the stuff. You just have to get the wire. Just
Right.
pay for the wire,
Right.
and you can get it at this place, and just give my name, and they'll give you a discount.
Mhm.
He was so kind. He
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
so Al Spores was his name.
Mhm.
He was a former school director. His wife was a stay-at-home mom, and he was so wonderful. But then other family members helped us, and Jerry, my brother, came and helped Jerry, put this back porch on
Oh,
because it was small. It probably was about that size over
right.
there, and we thought, oh, we'll make it a little bit
Yeah.
bigger,
Yeah.
And Jerry's brother, helped us with the ramp there where we
Right.
put to park,
Right.
and
Right.
so family members come, but the kindness of this man.
Mhm.
And then Jerry would, of course, if anything you needed, he'd be over there. I know I
Right.
helped him paint one time, and
Uh-huh.
I'd be glad to help him do. But you know what he said, and he was funny. He was
Mhm.
very, very sharp and very funny.
Mhm.
And he says, you might think I'm a good guy for doing that, but he said, I have ulterior motives. He said, I like the houses on either side of me to have good wiring.
Right. 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 Yeah. Exactly.
So, his wife passed away. She sat up on the upstairs porch there
Mhm.
with her daughter. They were looking at photos. They knew she was dying.
Mhm.
And I never saw anything like it really because they were looking at photos. And she said, I've had, and then they called me over and I went up. And she said, I've had a wonderful life. I have no regrets. I
Mhm.
couldn't have been more fortunate. And I love to look at these pictures and go through. And I said to her, you know what, June, you have a lot of courage. I mean, she's facing
Yeah.
death,
Yeah.
and you have a lot of courage
Mhm.
and a wonderful outlook. And it made it easier, I think, for her. She had two children. I would think it would make it easier for her to be. I think, I don't know, but that was beautiful. That was courageous, courageous. He was
It made it easier to what?
to accept death, maybe.
Yeah.
Easier to accept death when you are so, she was so accepting of it, and she was willing to say, I was so lucky. I married your father. We had a wonderful life together. We had two wonderful children. We had the house. I mean, I would hope to have the presence of mind and the generosity to, to feel that way and be able to speak it
Mhm. Right.
because it was so beautiful. And
Right.
I looked back at my own mother
Mhm.
dying, that where she wouldn't talk about it. She couldn't. I mean, it's not a fault of hers. It
Mhm.
was just something she could not do, maybe couldn't accept. She was only 53. June was 25 years older. Well, probably 70, maybe around this age, or 73 or so. But when we first moved here, on Wednesday night and Saturday night, we got all dressed up, and we'd hear the door go, and you'd look out, or you'd be coming out, and they'd be walking up the yard, and they'd be, he would have his pink jacket on, his stunning outfit, and she'd be all, and he was the one who did the sewing in the family. He was amazing. He did everything. He did everything. He could put a roof on. He could. One day, he saw me coming down the yard. I said, "Oh, I'm waiting for the guy from the gas company to come, the furnace." "Oh, call them back. They'll charge it as soon as they'll charge it, even if they don't do anything. Call them back. I have all kinds of parts for the furnace over here." Comes over, he puts the part in, and he said, "Just replace the part." The man was amazing. And if she had a skirt that needed to be hemmed, and in the summer, or in the winter, when the summer, he'd all be out, in the yard and fixing everything. In fact, he'd roll over at the other side of that garage and some of the other things. Because there is nobody like that anymore.
Right,
or even then, there weren't too many.
Right.
And he was so meticulous.
Right.
He had one board that had a little bit of, he'd rip off that board, put a new board, slap the paint on.
Believe me, the guy who had the house before me, he was that same way. He'd roll over what he saw. Kazora. Did you know
what was the name?
Frank Kazora? Laura
Yeah.
Kazora would have been in, well, maybe she was a year younger than Jill.
Yeah. No, it doesn't ring a bell, but how wonderful is that?
Yeah,
because this is maybe the third guy who's lived here since then, and none of them were. So by now there's a window out in the garage there, and I think, "Oh, Al, please don't even be looking down." But he was amazing.
But tell me, where were they going on Wednesday and Saturday night?
Wednesday and Saturday night, they were going over to Preno's, and they held court at Preno's. So they had dinner at Preno's. It was right there, and and then Saturday night would be the same way. They got to dress up and go out. She never begrudged on a Saturday. He worked all week. And on a Saturday, he'd be here with some of our projects, helping us, or doing it. We were helping him. And she never begrudged that. She was always so kind, that she never thought, "Oh, I'd like to do something with my husband on a Saturday." And here he is over there, Right. She was happy to go out to dinner later on in the day, and they did have a wonderful life.
Was there dancing at Preno's, or
no, I don't think so. I think it was just dinner, but I think it was people he might have been on the school board with. I know he had a lot of school board friends. Dr. Stevens, there was a Dr. Stevens he was friends with. I forget some of the other names, but once a year they would go down near Danville and stay at a place and stay for 3 days, and that was a big vacation, So wonderful guy. When I hear that door close, because it's the same door.
Oh, right.
When I hear the gate, I could close my eyes and he could be, coming out of it. So he was special.
Yeah.
Very kind. Yeah, we've been fortunate. We've had a lot of wonderful friends and family, to help us along, because we never made a lot of money, and how lucky are we? We always feel like 3 girls educated. Oh my God, we must have hit the lottery. It's as if we hit the lottery. And the poor girls, they're paying these. Mary Lynn just finished paying off her loans. Some that she had from Penn too. But I always think, oh my God, we hit the lottery. 3 times we hit the lottery. How lucky were we, Gus?
Yeah.
So fortunate.
Yeah. I want to talk about food. This is my last question, really.
Food, okay.
So did you have any special meal growing up, and do you still eat it today?
Yeah, well, just to make sure, like everybody has a wonderful Christmas dinner, all the special foods you would have at Christmas. And special to me would be like, we'd have a half a ham with pineapple on it. I always thought that was interesting, how they put the pineapple rings on the ham, and mashed potatoes. And my mother was great for making bread and pies. And so, on Christmas and Easter, though, it was even more so. And I think we do that here too. You know, not to, you don't want to gouge, but you want to have special things that you
Right.
might not have at
Right.
other times, you
Yeah.
know. But we were very, I still make a lot of things from scratch. I love,
Mhm.
my mother made jelly, and I have her jelly
Ah.
equipment, you know, and that's why we like to go picking berries.
Mhm.
And because, you know, then you can make some jam, some blueberry jam, or, you know,
Mhm.
strawberry jam. We planted rhubarb this year. We had some, and then some, it went by the wayside. I don't know what happened to that. So
Yeah.
we planted some more rhubarb because we like, I like, Jerry doesn't like it, but I like rhubarb strawberry. And I won't make a pie if he's not going to eat it, because I
Right.
can't be eating the pie all myself. So I'll just make some for my yogurt, you know, put it on yogurt.
Oh.
It's delicious. Like
Huh.
I can
Huh.
remember my mother saying, "Take a spoonful of that. It's like a tonic."
Huh.
Oh yes,
Huh. That's a good
but
idea.
wonderful to pick berries and then make, and to have her equipment, you know, and that may have been her mother's equipment. They still sell them. They're called chinois, chinois, and it's a cone shaped,
Mm.
almost like a colander, but very
Mm.
tiny holes. And then you have a pestle, I think they call it, and you
Right.
just, you put the fruit in there and you just go
Huh.
around like that. And so the seeds and the skin, and if you
Right.
want to do that, strawberry jam, I just like to do in the, you know, I don't put it, because of course you're not going to get those seeds out, and you
Right.
want to have all the parts of it, you know. But
Right.
there was a man back on the log road who had grapes, an older
Oh.
man, and he would say, "There, come and," he was a little old Italian guy, "come and pick some grapes. Come and pick some grapes for your mother. You might want to make some jam." And he was right. I'd go over into his grape arbor, and never mind the ones we stole from him probably the day before, you know. "Oh, really, Mr. Sylvester? Oh, thank you so much." It's like, oh my God. We were over there robbing his grapes the day before. But he was kind, you know,
Right.
he never said anything
Right.
except come and get the grapes.
Maybe that was his way of letting you know that it was okay.
It was
to
okay.
take. Yeah,
It might have been.
Yeah.
It might have been, yes. Yeah, because how could he miss it? You know, the houses were so close. How
Right.
could he miss it?
Right. Right. That's terrific. Is there anything else that you want to tell me about?
We covered so much, Gus.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. You know, I just want to tell you that,
Mm.
you know, you didn't have much because of a big family, because, you know, my mother didn't work. My mother was, thank God, my mother was in the home.
Mhm.
And, but because there was a stability there with the mother in the home.
Mhm.
And, you know, none of my kids are home.
Mhm.
But you know, it's a different life. You
Mhm.
can't go and get the degrees that they have, and have a
Mhm.
career and then put it on hold for 25 years. You can't do that. And so kids are okay now because they have wonderful situations. The daycare, I know Geraldine's Mavis just went back to her daycare for the summer.
Mhm.
And but you know, the poverty was there, but you never felt it. You
Mhm.
never felt it because there were other big families.
Mhm.
The poverty was there, but you know, it's like anything. If you have enough to eat, if you have what you need, you know, you got a new outfit when school started, one new outfit when school started, and so you thought you were a millionaire, and you know, just maybe you got one thing at Christmas, you got a doll at Christmas, or you got something, and you know, you just that's how you know that you don't need to have so much stuff to be happy, because when you were happy with not much, you know, not much material stuff, but the feeling of, you know, listening to sharing a radio program with your brothers, the Lone Ranger, and going to a movie on a Saturday.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
having family close, an aunt and an uncle lived up the street from us, and on the log road, and you know, good neighbors, good life, good life. I often think how fortunate I am for the stupid mistakes I've made. Leave college, and then I start something else I hated bad, and then, you know, and I think, how did I'm reading this book now. This book, and I can't use the obscenity that it is, but I'm sure you've seen it. It's on the bestseller list. It's the subtle art of not giving up.
Uh,
It's such a good book. The guy said, I
uh-huh.
don't know how I didn't end up in a drainage ditch somewhere. And I think sometimes big family,
Mhm.
questionable, no money.
Mhm.
I think I could have ended up,
Mhm.
walk away from every opportunity you ever had.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, there's definitely more than one way to have a career and have a life, and
and have a good life.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's for sure.
Well, good. Let me stop that.